Ladies and gentlemen, we are approaching our final destination. The runway is clear as we prepare for landing a new life. Your captain has a special message. Please welcome back two-time Daytime Emmy Award-winning host of the Daytime Emmy Award-winning The Dr. Oz Show, Vice Chair and Professor of Surgery at Columbia University, Director of the Cardiovascular Institute and Complementary Program at New York Presbyterian Hospital, author of 7 New York Times bestsellers and 400 original publications, book chapters, and medical books. He's a world-renowned cardiothoracic surgeon performing more than 100 heart surgeries a year. Today, he has dedicated his time and talent to pilot your health and happiness. Again, Dr. Mehmet Oz.
Thank you very much. All right. I've been thinking about what I'm going to say for weeks, and I'm going to say up front that the purpose of this is not to give you information. It's to get you to change your lives. Meaningful change means meaningful change. It means transforming your life in ways that a lot of you probably haven't thought about for quite some time. So what I'm going to do today is take you through my office. This is my office. And allow you to see what it might feel like. What it might feel like if you took your health in a different direction. This is what's happening in America. We're pushing as hard as we can on that door to health, and it's not opening. It's not opening. Part of it is because we don't know the biology of what drives change in our bodies, and part of it is we're not taking the time to read those lessons. Let me give you an example. This is what a healthy human lung looks like. You see how it's pink and wide and looks spectacular like that? You can see how fluffy it is, how airy it is. It looks like clouds. This is what a smoker's lung looks like. See the dark tar areas? You see the top where it looks like it's been eaten away by moths? That's called emphysema. Emphysema. Now think about this. When you see someone who's a smoker, when you tell them that they shouldn't smoke, you're wasting your time and you're wasting their time because they know that already. If you show it to them, which is what I try to do sometimes, at least they have that visceral awareness of why their cigarettes are actually damaging them, and they can think about it differently. This is why years ago I pledged never to operate on a smoker. You know why? Because I love them. I care about them. My only chance to stop them from smoking is before I operate on them. So on Thursdays when I'm up at New York Presbyterian Columbia operating, doing my surgeries, I think about this. I think to myself, what can I say to change your mind about something you want to do but haven't been able to do? I'm going to come back to that theme in a second. Osteoporosis, same basic concept. On the left side, you see the very thick, nice bone. On the right side, that osteoporotic bone, it's sort of worn down, it's thinned out. So how do you treat this? Well, you know, you can give medications for it, right? We have all kinds of things I can offer to you, but what works more than anything else is resistance training, right? Lifting it up. That little bit of activity, which most of us don't do after we hit our 3rd decade of life, it changes the equation dramatically. All right, let's talk about my specialty, hardening of the arteries. Now, atherosclerosis is a process where you literally deposit stuff, junk, gradue. But what it really is rusting away of our insides. Now, in this picture, you see that little plaque in the big tube called the aorta. But on the right side, you have a normal big plump kidney. On the left side, it's shrunken and small. That itty-bitty kidney is dead because the blood that was going to it closed off. See that artery? It's thrombosed. It's got clot in it. The kidney was starved. There are many people in this audience right now who have lost one of their kidneys and they don't even know it because you only need one kidney to live. That's why you can donate a kidney. But when it happens to both of your kidneys, that's big problems. So how do you know what's going to happen? Let me bring this alive to you with an animation. This is what's happening in the inside of arteries all over this country. You're 18 years of age. That little yellow plaque begins to grow. 22, 23 gets larger. Slowly the plaque begins to get big. By the time you're in your 40s, it's gotten really large. And all of a sudden, well, it ruptures. One day it ruptures. Now you have this raw, open sore, this plaque inside the blood vessels. And on top of that, you start to deposit a clot because when you have a cut in the body anywhere, you want to form a clot on it. That clot gets larger and larger and larger, and kaboom! Right there. You saw the leading cause of death in the Western world. That's what a heart attack looks like. Now, some of you might be a little scared by that image, but I don't want you to be. What I just showed you should be terribly empowering, because it turns out that that clot formed over minutes, hours, maybe a day after the plaque ruptured, which means you control that, which means who you fought with this morning and what you eat this afternoon can change the chance of you're having a heart attack tomorrow. That's why number one time for a heart attack is Monday morning. So you're getting close. I bring that up because if it's something that was inevitably happening to you, it would happen over years and you couldn't reverse it, we wouldn't find that. But we know these things happen quickly, and it turns out you control them. Women in particular, but men too, when you change things that are going on in your life, you reverse most of the big illnesses that we're talking about. Some of them you get rid of for good, some of them you just make them a lot better. And I'm going to talk about some of those today. But don't forget this imagery, because I'm going to come back to it over and over again. Let's start off with the big risk factors. You control 70% of how well and how long you live. Think about that. 70% of it, 2/3 of it. A little bit, 1/3 genetic. But you have the ability, if you focus on 5 factors, these are the first 4. Blood pressure. Why 115/75? That's the optimal number. Now, a lot of you think, okay, I'm not hypertensive. If I'm not hypertensive, I'm good to go. But it turns out that hypertension, 140/90, is bad, but the average, which is 130/85, isn't good enough. What happens to the average American? We die of a heart attack. You don't want to be average. You want to be optimal. 115/75. Now, here's why it's important. Remember the animation I just showed you with the blood vessel closing off with the blood clot? Okay, here's how that happens. The very beginning, that little yellow plaque that I talked about, it starts because somebody punches a hole in the artery. So if I were to punch a hole in a wall back there, how would I fix that hole? I'd have to put plaster in it, right? I put high quality plaster in that hole. I get a nice pretty repair. No one can tell anything was wrong. If I put a lousy repair in there, it crackles and fizzles out and I can see the defect. What's the body's plaster? It's cholesterol. When you have cholesterol that's not the good kind, because you're eating the wrong foods, like foods lots of fats in them, or you're overweight, whatever the reason is, you put junky cholesterol in there, you have this hole which is therefore fixed with junky stuff, it clots, it cracks, you get that clot formation. That's what causes the problem. Now think back. Now you know why the cholesterol is a problem, but what makes the hole? The punch is the blood pressure. It's like a high powered water pick or a garden hose or a fire hydrant that's burst. It's blasting away with hard pressure on that very delicate Teflon-like lining of the artery. That ripped away tissue's got to heal itself. That's where the plaster comes in, the cholesterol. So if you stop the hole, you never have to worry about the rest of it. That's number one. Number one risk factor of all. Number one driver of aging. If your blood pressure's high, 10 years shorter life expectancy than not. Number 2, cigarettes. I've talked about them, talked about the motivation a little bit. Turns out to be a very important issue because it rips away the delicate lining as well. But let's talk about how we address cigarette smoking, because I think it's a metaphor for all the other problems you may face. If the person you love is drinking too much, if they're overweight, if they're not doing the things they should do, if they're not showing up in their own lives, how do you get them to change? I would argue you don't do it by telling them they're doing the wrong thing, because they know that already. You do it by asking them one simple favor. All I want you to do is to love yourself as much as I care for you. When you phrase it that way, it's not accusative, it's not prescriptive, you're getting down to the root issue, which is the emotions of why we don't change. Can I just share something with you that Oprah taught me a long time ago, and I think it is true, and I've seen it on my show over and over again? People don't change what they do based on what they know. They change what they do based on how they feel. If we can get into the emotional reasons why people aren't doing the right thing, it changes everything. If we can go from being up here, having knowledge, to this deep visceral awareness of why it matters, people change. That's why when people around you are sick, you change, because you care about them. That's why when you talk to folks about their kids, if you talk to folks about their vision, their future, their hopes, their desires, all those take them to a different place in their life. Topic number 3, physical activity. You don't have to run triathlons. I'm talking about 30 minutes of basic activity a day. When we go around the world and look where people live the longest, they have different types of social structures, they eat different kinds of foods, but guess what? In every one of these places that people live a long time in, they have daily, vigorous physical activity. What kills Americans is not just cancer and heart disease and all those things. Listen, if I got rid of all the cancer in New York, Do you know how much longer we would live? On average, 2.8 years. I mean, I'd love to get rid of all cancer, but what kills us ultimately is we get frail. We're so frail, we can't get treated for the cancer. We can't weather the storm of the illness, so we get culled from the herd. That's why it's so important for us to focus in on avoiding the frailty. Now, especially for women, you hit that 4th decade of life, and you don't think you need that muscle mass. It's vitally important if you want to stay trim and fit and lose weight, but it's also important just for endurance, for longevity. And I'm not talking about running. I'm talking about doing activities with your muscles that build a little bit more of them, the kind of things you've been hearing about today. 4th, you know about dieting. We've talked about it today, but I'm going to change the focus. I want you to eat a diet you love. If it's not easy to love, you're not going to stay on it. And please write this down if you're taking notes. What does prevention mean? Prevention fundamentally is about making it easy to do the right thing. If you make it easy to do the right thing, you'll do it. If you create traps for yourself to fall, you're going to fall. So when you don't make the decisions in the supermarket and you force yourself to make them in the home because you brought stuff into your house you didn't want to have, it makes it difficult for yourself. It's like chumming the waters. Of course you can't do it. That's why families have to do this together. That's why we invest so much effort into healthcare, why it's so vitally important to us. Now, the 5th topic is one that all of us desire. And it's not on here for a reason because I'm going to show you how to do it. It's about stress, but it's not about getting rid of stress. It's about having a new insight about how to cope with it. So I'm going to ask you to do me a favor. Just sit right there, put your hands to your side. I want you to put your right hand on your belly. We can put the house lights up a tiny bit, all right? And I want you to take a deep breath. I want you all to do it. Take a deep breath. All right, and then let go. All right. Almost everybody that I can see did it wrong. When you take a deep breath, you've got to understand the anatomy of what I'm talking about. So I'm going to play something for you. It's a little video, and then we're going to take that deep breath again. So pay attention to this. This isn't a video of what your body wants to do. You can put the video on. There we are. So if you look at what's going on, we take a deep breath. That orange muscle, the diaphragm, it comes down as you inhale, so your belly goes out. As you exhale, belly comes in, diaphragm up, pushes the lung out of the way. Muscle comes down, belly comes out, you inhale. It's the opposite of what most of you do. This belly breathing is so fundamentally important to how we cope with stress that I'm going to take 1 minute and just go over it with you again. Okay? And it's all about this video. Remember, exhale, stomach out, the diaphragm down. Okay, sit back again, right hand on your belly. The other right hand. There you are, good. All right, now, take a deep breath in. On 4, I'm going to ask you to push your belly button out. I'm going to go to 8, and you're going to exhale and relax the belly button and take it back towards the spine. Ready? 1, inhale. 2, push your right hand out. 3, 4, feel a little aching above your hand. Now relax your stomach. 5, 6, now suck your belly button back towards your spine. 7, 8. Inhale again. 1, 2, push your belly out, exaggerated. 3, 4, little aching above it. Now relax the stomach. 5, 6, suck your belly button again towards your spine. Your hand should go way in towards your spine. 7, 8. Very nicely done. Very nicely done. Now, if you're watching a child sleep at night, you will see them do it naturally. If you watch a singer, they'll do it. A professional athlete before a shot, they'll do it. It happens instinctively when you have to do it or someone teaches you. But you know what? We forget it. The next time you're in a difficult situation, you're going to reach across and strangle the guy. But instead, that's okay, JB. I'm good with that. And that's how you'll end up coping and changing. And it's a subtle little thing, but I found it hugely effective in my own life. I'll tell you, before the shows I do it, when I'm in the operating room, when I'm having a difficult stitch to put on a heart that's beating and there's blood loss that I don't want to see, deep breath, focus, and do it. Hugely effective. It is the foundation of so many different religious and spiritual practices, foundation of yoga. Think about it. It's a simple little takeaway from today's activities. All right, now let's get back into change. Let me drive this point home with a very concrete example. I'm going to talk to you about something that it is the number one thing you ask me about on my show, the number one topic, and it is weight. This famous sculpture that many of you recognize, obviously did not quite turn out this way originally. I've modified it. But there's some fundamental disconnects that we have about why we're overweight. And I gotta say, ultimately it comes down to control. Not just self-control, just understanding control. Your lives are out of control. Our lives sometimes are driven by things that we don't understand. We want our kids to talk to us. They don't often show up emotionally for us. We're having issues with our spouse. Our parents are a problem. All these things happen. And you don't feel like you have any control over all that. So you turn to the one thing that you do have control over, the fork at the end of your arm. And you use it, right? And we do it over and over and over again. So I'm going to take a two-tiered approach to this. I want to talk a little bit about the biology of blubber, and then I want to talk a little bit about the emotions that sometimes drive us in the wrong direction. Because if you can understand why we do this wrong, you'll probably unravel many of the other assumptions you've made about yourself. And I want you to challenge those assumptions today. I want you to leave the Radio City Music Hall challenging what you have assumed needed to happen in your life. By altering that a little bit, you're going to nudge yourself in the right direction. Okay, step number one, the biology of blubber. We tested all kinds of people.
Are you ready?
I guess.
From all different places.
Pennsylvania, California, North Carolina.
And all walks of life. Come on up.
I'm Bob Green.
Right, Jared.
You're having your test done today,
Yes.
so...
I was supposed to have it done for a while because I drink a lot of water. I'm always thirsty. You can never cure the thirst.
37-year-old Jared had never been tested for diabetes before.
This is Jared.
Hey Jared, how are you?
Good.
You know, when they call the doctor over, that's not good news.
While that runs, I'm going to tell you that number's supposed to be under 6. The amount of sugar that's traveling around in your blood cells needs to be under that number. That's what it should be for all of us. Your number is 12.8.
Wow.
12.8 worries me a lot. That's more than twice what's tolerable.
Yeah. That's what I do about it.
What do I do about it? He asked the all-important question, what do I do about it? Think about this. He was urinating all the time. He was thirsty all the time. He felt tired. Those are the classic things you'll think about with diabetes. He has, this young man, who's done very well since the show, an ailment that has become an epidemic, not just in this country, but across the globe. 1 in 3 Americans has diabetes or pre-diabetes. We're talking about a problem that will afflict probably half of the girls and boys born in this country who are of Latino origin, at least 40% of black little boys and girls, and a third of white boys and girls in their lifetime. I mean, these numbers are massive, the actual diabetic numbers. And we are mortgaging our future if you're not dealing with this in a serious fashion. So when you recognize that, then it comes down to one fundamental issue. If I have my, there we are. That it's not just about the meds you take, but the risk factors you adjust. This is the ultimate factor that I want to focus in on. The ideal weight is not the key number. The ideal waist size is the key number. You want your height divided by 2 to always be a number bigger than your waist size. That make sense? So I'm 6 foot 1 inches tall. 6 times 12 is 72 inches plus 1, 73 inches. Divide that in half is 36 and a half inches. That's the goal. If you can get to 36 and a half inches or lower with your waist size, the odds of you having diabetes and all the other problems that we talk about with big bellies go away. But let me show you why that's so important. This is an animation. Can I see one other point, please? You got to measure it. Why? Guys over the age of 40 never buy a new belt size. They just slip the belt down over the fat, right? And they walk around like this, right? And you know you're out there, right? You walk back like this. I got a 32 belt, right? So you actually got to get the measuring tape, and I carry them around in my pockets and measure people. I'm going to be outside measuring people after this program. So once you do that, you'll understand why that equation is so important. It works for men and women and kids. So here's the animation that'll bring it to life. That yellow pad is the belly fat, the omentum. Get rid of that. Inside your body, you had lunch a few hours ago. Your liver's the big orange thing. The green thing's your gallbladder. The food in your stomach is being squeezed down into the small intestines. That food wraps around the small intestines and it gets absorbed through the wall of the small intestines. And as it does that, those nutrients begin to get sucked across the wall. If you eat the good foods that we talk about, that you've heard about today, they go up to that big portal vein, they go to the liver, your liver digests it. It turns it into what you want it to be. If you need a little bit of protein, it builds protein, whatever you need. If you eat the wrong kinds of foods, it turns your liver to foie gras, the fat. 20% of Americans have this in their liver, fatty livers, deposited because we've got big bellies. And then when you have those big bellies, it gets ponderously large. It stretches way across as it fills your waistline. That belly fat does three things. It puts pressure on your kidneys, and your kidneys regulate your blood pressure. So when you have a big belly, it drives up that high blood pressure number that I spoke of earlier. Number two, it poisons the liver, like I just showed, and it forces the liver to make more of that toxic, lousy LDL cholesterol. And thirdly, it blocks the ability of insulin to work, so you get diabetes, the problem Jared had in that video. Belly fat alone does that. So, what do you do about it? I'm gonna give you two tips. Two tips and then one little philosophical point and we're out of here. Tip number one, there's something called the ileal brake. It actually slows down the movement of food through your intestines, and by stopping it down, the food doesn't go any further. But you gotta turn it on, and fiber turns it on. Dr. Rose spoke about this. This is why fiber is so important as part of your life, and you just do the math right now. If you're not getting 25 grams of fiber, which is twice what you normally get, you're losing an opportunity to take advantage of the biology of blubber. Next up, just follow my little rule on this. Try it out for a week. 30-minute rule with nuts. I keep nuts in my pocket next to the tape measure. The nuts in my office, in my pocket, the studio, wherever I may be. Half an hour before a meal, I throw a handful in my mouth. Why do I do that? It takes 30 minutes for the hormones governing hunger to go away. Well, guess what? In 30 minutes, you've had 3 meals. Well, like if you're like me, I do. So what I want you to do is 30 minutes ahead of time, get those nuts in your mouth and turn off that chemistry. Turn off the stomach's desire to overeat. So when you sit down for the meal, you eat what you're supposed to eat, not what your brain and your body are forcing you to eat. That's how people who are thin stay thin. They automate their lives. They make it easy to do the right thing, so guess what? They end up being thin. Thin people think heavy people are lazy, and lazy people think thin people are lucky. Neither's true, right? It's in the middle where the truth exists. All right. My one plea to all of you, I love you dearly. You've taken your afternoon to become an army that can go out there and convince people that they can control their destiny. Don't knock yourselves down on this stuff. You know, we all make mistakes. The next time you fall off the tracks because you didn't do the right thing with your cigarettes or your food or whatever other thing you want to change in your life, think about the GPS system, right? When you're driving in your car, when you're coming down here, you make a wrong turn, what do? Your GPS doesn't berate you, it doesn't beat you up. Your GPS says at the next authorized moment, make a U-turn. What's the big deal? Right? And that ends up being exactly what we need to do for ourselves. Smart living, smart dieting is not a wind sprint, it's a marathon. Think about it that way. And finally, the way you'll know you've succeeded is when you have automated your life. You ought to probably eat the same darn breakfast every morning. I don't care if it's boring. You should not reinvent the wheel every day. The fewer decisions you make, the more successful you're gonna be. And when you forget that you're on a new program, when it's not in your mindset, that's when you know you've succeeded. So I want you to take tips that we've given you all afternoon long, make a 2-week plan out of that, and try it for those 2 weeks, and then train your autopilot to take you in that direction. And if you do it, you've achieved the final goal that I have. Because I know you're deeping, caring, passionate people. If you give your heart a reason to keep beating, it will. You know, when you travel around this great country, you see lots of folks who are making fundamental mistakes because sometimes your home may be as toxic as the bodies that are living in it. You gotta deal with both at the same time, especially if you're having some of the problems we've been talking about today. So luckily, Dr. Myron Wentz and Dr. Dave Wentz are here to join us on our journey to health. Dr. Myron Wentz is a world expert on the cell, the building block of the human body, which makes tons of sense because he spent his whole life studying it, makes you pretty good at things. By researching how to keep the basic building blocks of the body healthy, Dr. Wentz discovered not only the cell's nutritional needs, but the cell's optimal nutrition, there they are, needs as well. Now this breakthrough led this visionary scientist to found USANA Health Sciences. This is a nutritional company that's based on the science of optimal nutrition. They've helped us out a ton. By helping educate a lot of folks about what mistakes they may be making in their lives. Now, in 2007, Dr. Wentz was honored for his work with the Albert Einstein Award for Outstanding Achievement in the Life Sciences. When Dr. Wentz started USANA Health Sciences, he needed some help. So when a dad needs help, what does he do? Usually he calls his wife, but in this case, he was lucky to have a son, Dave Wentz, who knew a lot about this area. He got involved. Together, the two entrepreneurs have built a $500 million a year global nutrition company. As the CEO, Dave Wentz has made sure USANA continues to fulfill his and his father's vision of optimal nutrition with the state-of-the-art manufacturing facilities, in-house scientists conducting the latest research, and thorough pioneering of the latest improvements in personalized nutrition, which is, I think, the forefront of any supplementation. Dave's tireless efforts to build a solid company and spread the USANA message of optimal health around the world led Forbes.com to name him one of America's most powerful CEOs, 40 and under. Now, they did that, in fairness, in 2009, back when Dave was under 40. He still looks pretty good. You'll see him in a few minutes. Last year, Dave and Dr. Wentz released the best-selling book, The Healthy Home, which showcases a different, but arguably just as important component of a healthy life, a healthy home environment. Dave and Dr. Wentz uncovered hidden toxic dangers lurking right in our own homes. These are profoundly important insights, and what they found will shock you. For example, take a look at this. Here to share with us how we can change our toxic habits and create healthy, happy, and safe environments for our families. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Dave Wentz and Dr. Myron Wentz.
Thank you, Dr. Oz. Off the top, I want to admit that I've spent most of my career in the research laboratory, so I'm much more comfortable behind a microscope than a microphone. But what a fantastic...
Make you more comfortable, here you go.
Thank you, Never. What a fantastic summit this has been. As I read the theme words, health and happiness, it's obvious to me, and I'm sure to you as well, that all of our presenters have made the world a better place by pursuing the combination of these two goals. I share that goal as well. Well, let me back up a little. In my career in biomedical science, I've spent many years learning what amounts to two basic truths. First, that the cell is the basis of all life. The human body is made up of cells and only cells and their products, our eyes, brain, muscles, our skeleton. For example, take a look at your hand. Look at your hand. It is completely covered with skin cells, and there are tens of thousands of them in every square inch. And along with all those skin cells in every square inch are an average of 650 sweat glands, 20 blood vessels, and more than 1,000 nerve endings. They're all cells, and they're all amazing. Second, I've learned that the most important things you can do to maintain healthy cells is number one, to provide them with the substances they need to thrive, nutrients. And number two, to help them avoid the substances that cause damage, toxics. From decades of working with cells in the lab, feeding them, encouraging them to grow, even infecting them with viruses so that we could use the cells to detect infectious diseases, I gained an intimate understanding of the inner workings of our cells. So much so that I wrote a book about my discoveries, Invisible Miracles. It became clear to me that the healthy cells are the basis for a healthy body. That means, of course, that unhealthy cells are going to inevitably result in an unhealthy body. Over years of culturing cells in the laboratory, establishing non-toxic environments, and developing optimal nutrition for them, I learned that there were only a limited number of things that the cells need to perform optimally. When you look at the periodic table of the elements, which includes all the elements that we know exist in our universe, the elements that were used to create our cells are these, and only these, which I call the life essentials. These are the elements that have been selected to create our cells and are essential to life. All the other elements that you see on that periodic table do not belong in the body. They only displace, interfere, inhibit, or poison natural metabolic pathways. Of the non-life elements that do not belong in the body, we know that the heavy metals are particularly toxic, like cadmium, tin, antimony, lead, and mercury tops that list. It's regarded by most scientists as the most toxic element on Earth. Its main target is the central nervous system, where it disrupts the structural and biochemical machinery of both neurons and their support cells, the astrocytes. But mercury isn't only a neurotoxin. It can poison every cell in the body. Lighter toxic metals like aluminum, arsenic, and nickel, or the toxic halogens such as fluoride and bromide, which displace precious iodine from our thyroid gland and other organs, are especially harmful. It's important to note that an alarming number of popular pharmaceuticals, ones that you may be taking, contain fluoride. Even much of our food that we eat today lacks many of the essential elements and introduces toxics into our bodies. Introduction of these non-life elements into our cells can have catastrophic effects. To help you see what I've been discussing, let's look at living cells reacting to substances found in food. The first clip is what a blood specimen looks like after a test subject has eaten a healthy lunch. Nice, rounded, mobile cells going about their business, the business of delivering oxygen to the furthest extremities of the body. The second clip is what happens in the blood when the body is exposed to toxic substances, in this case, the high levels of oxidized and trans fats, preservatives, additives, chemicals, and dyes found in fast food lunch. Here we see we've created blood sludge, clumped red blood cells, barely able to move through capillaries. You don't need to be a scientist to see they are too sick to be performing their normal functions. We all know prevention is the best cure, but in addition to eating the right foods, we need to supplement our diet. Not only to ensure our cells are getting all the essential elements, but also to provide our cells with a greatly increased need to protect them from oxidative damage caused by our horrendously increased exposure to toxic free radicals today. Every free radical takes at least one antioxidant molecule to quench it. Since there are thousands and thousands of free radicals bombarding our cells constantly, large doses of antioxidants are necessary to prevent oxidative damage to those cells. The quantities needed are not provided in our diet today. We must supplement our nutritional intake to get the adequate amounts necessary to prevent and reverse the adverse effects of exposure to toxics. In addition to protecting ourselves with antioxidants, we need to avoid exposure to toxics as much as possible. We need, as we heard earlier, to practice avoidance. Though many areas of exposure are beyond our control, there are some that are easily avoided and are quite literally close to home. My son Dave is well versed in this topic and, even more importantly, quite passionate about it. We both are, and we even wrote a book about it. So would you like to see some of what we discovered? Yeah. Dave, let's show them some of what we found.
Thank you. Before I get started, I wanted to take a moment, though, to recognize and thank all of you. Thank you for investing of your precious time to come out, to learn, and to be leaders of change, to make a positive difference. So please, everyone, give yourselves a big hand. Thank you. You are the ones that will lead us into a healthy future, because we live in a polluted world. We are being exposed to more and more of those elements that don't belong in our bodies. And if you're like me, you feel powerless. How can we change the big environment? How can we make a cleaner world? But when you think about it, our world, our environment, isn't the greater environment of our planet. Our main or primary environment is our homes. That's where we spend a majority of our lives. And we have to realize we can control that environment. We can make a difference. We can decide if that's a healthy environment for our family or a toxic environment. Now, we certainly don't know all of the dangers out there, but we know a lot more than we knew 50 years ago.
What cigarette do you smoke, Doctor?
Tens of thousands of doctors in all branches of medicine, in all parts of the country, were asked that question.
What cigarette do you smoke, Doctor?
The brand named most was Camel. Yes, surveys show more doctors smoke Camels than any other cigarette.
Smoke Camels, the cigarette so many doctors enjoy.
People ask me if that's real. We can look back at that and laugh now, but doesn't it make you wonder? What are the things that you are doing today that 10 years from now you would look back and laugh? Unfortunately, most of us are not aware of the many dangers that have crept into our homes. And so what we want to do today is take a tour of the home and find some of the surprising hidden dangers that you were unaware of, and more importantly, the simple solutions that you can employ so that you can make a healthy home for yourself now, so we can laugh now rather than later when it's too late. All right, first let's head to the bathroom.
Dave, are you going to leave your stool?
Excuse me? Oh, you mean my chair? I thought you've been watching too many Dr. Oz shows.
Yeah.
In the bathroom, we probably hold one of those hidden dangers in our hand every day. How many of you have taken a second to read the back of your toothpaste label? There's a warning on there that says that if you accidentally swallow your toothpaste, you should call the Poison Control Center. How ironic. Something that we put in our mouth each and every day is toxic if swallowed. Why? Well, one of those elements. We talked about fluoride. Fluoride is in there. Fluoride displaces the calcium and magnesium in our bones, which does make our teeth and our bones hard, but it also makes them brittle. And brittle bones lead to broken bones, and we all know that a broken hip later in life can be deadly. Fluoride can also pit the enamel of your teeth, We've been tricked and marketed into believing that we need fluoride to prevent cavities. We don't. The healthy way is to floss, to use a tongue scraper, and to brush with a fluoride-free toothpaste, and very importantly, get lots of calcium, magnesium, and vitamin D so that you can build strong and healthy teeth and bones. Now, the next hidden danger is a little more hidden. I want you all to turn, look to your partner, open your mouth wide, and let them count how many silver fillings that you have in your mouth. Now, those silver fillings, each one of them contains the toxic heavy metal mercury that we talked about, one of the most toxic elements there is in your mouth. Many of you have heard of the Mad Hatter from Alice in Wonderland, or the term mad as a hatter. Where did that term come from? Well, it came from the fact that the people who worked in these hat factories were exposed to mercury during the process. And after working there a while, they would go crazy. Why? Because the mercury has an affinity for the brain cells and it causes Alzheimer's, dementia, other neurological disorders. And so being exposed to mercury over and over, they would go crazy. Now that silver filling in your tooth, or in your teeth, if you have many of them, the American Dental Association has said that that mercury is stable, it's not released. We're going to do a little experiment to find out if that's true. We've created some teeth with some mercury fillings, some silver fillings, and we're going to brush our teeth and we're going to take a sample. This is a Jerome meter. It measures the mercury vapor that's released.
Mercury vapor specifically, nothing else.
None should show up if 0 is released. 84 micrograms released. It's then a lie. Mercury vapor is being released each and every time you brush your teeth. So, what do? The best thing you can do is get a biological dentist to remove those silver fillings. Do it safely. It's a very toxic substance, so they have to be very careful when they remove those silver fillings. If you can't get them removed for some reason, at least don't chew gum and ice. Watch out for the hot liquids, the hot tea, coffee, and soups. And don't brush with a dry brush. In other words, don't cause unnecessary heat and friction, because all you're doing is releasing more mercury into your mouth, which goes straight into your brain. All right, next let's head on to the bedroom. Now, we spend about a third of our lives in the bedroom. 8 hours approximately with sleep, getting ready, watching TV, and of course, extracurricular activities. And so we need to make sure that our bathroom is a very healthy place. Bedroom, sorry. Make sure both. But make sure your bedroom is a healthy place because you spend a lot of your life there. Now, our first danger, you have to realize that we are electric beings. We are electrical beings. All you have to do is watch your TV hospital shows and hear someone yell, "Clear!" as they shock someone back into life. We are electrical beings, and we're being exposed to electropollution or unnatural EMFs, electromagnetic frequencies. And those EMFs, those unnatural frequencies, cause damage to our cells, especially our cell membranes, disrupt communication. And so we need to be aware of where those things are in our lives. We need to be aware of the high voltage power lines that may be far away from us, but we also have to be aware of the lesser fields, like an electric blanket, much lesser field, but right against the cells of your body. We're not really sure what all these electromagnetic fields do. We know they disrupt, but we don't know the long-term effects. We don't know for sure just how bad it's going to be, but you can't wait for science to find out. Use the precautionary principle. Take precautions now so that you can be prepared, so that if the science does come out, you use that little bit of caution and safety ahead of time before finding out when it's too late. So let's take a look at some of the gadgets on our nightstand next to our bed.
This is a Gauss meter that can measure electromagnetic fields. As we approach, can you see that? Look at the scale. But also notice that it goes down as we move away. Here's a light. Even with it switched off, it's generating a field which transmits through walls, so you need to be careful what's on the other side of your bedroom. But here's another clock. No reading. It's battery operated.
So, some of the simple solutions: a battery-operated clock, moving those gadgets further away on the nightstand so they're not right next to your brain all night long. Unplug the items you're not using. Realize that that lamp, even though it's turned off, is still putting out electromagnetic fields. And whatever you do, no electric blankets. Don't put those EMFs right against your skin. All right, another danger is in the bedroom closet. It's dry cleaning.
Sometimes regular washing just isn't enough. Are you ready for your big meeting today, George?
I am now. Knowing that my shirt is extra clean makes me a more confident man.
And it's certainly more convenient for me. Why, they even have home delivery.
And chances are the chemical used in dry cleaning hasn't been banned in your area yet. Well, Betty, I'd better be on my way.
You know, George, traces of that chemical will be on your breath for up to 48 hours. Why, I bet everyone at the office will know that that shirt is not just clean.
It's dry cleaned clean. It's great being a modern family. Try dry cleaning.
Can't you see it's great to be a modern family?
Let's be careful what we look back and laugh at, right? Perc is a known toxin. It's been banned in California, so our government's looking out for us a little bit. It's been banned in the year 2023, so they can poison you for 11 more years, but then they have to stop, so that's good. It's kind of like the asbestos of the future. We have to be aware of those things. We have to protect ourselves. We can't depend on the government to protect us. We cannot depend on the manufacturers to protect us. So, some of the simple solutions. Use a green dry cleaner. They're out there. There are healthy alternatives to Perc for dry cleaning. Wear your clothes a few times before adding more Perc if you're getting the regular dry cleaning. And one of the easiest things to do, bring your dry cleaning home, hang it in the garage or out on the patio. Take off that plastic wrap so it's not sealing in all those bad juices. Let it air out before you put it in your bedroom closet where you're breathing that air all night long. So, watch out for the dry cleaning. Next, let's move on to the kitchen. In the kitchen, we have our beloved plastic. Plastic is everywhere. Plastic is taking over the world. It's so convenient, versatile, but when we get to the kitchen, it's dangerous. Why is that? Well, we need to keep it away from our food because the plastic, the chemicals, the plasticides, hormone disruptors leach out of the plastic into our food and drink. These toxic chemicals, for instance, think about your grandma's Tupperware that you've passed down for generations. You know that bowl you've been saving for years and years, all scratched and beat up? The more used and worn out it is, the more chemicals it leaches into our food and drink. And be especially careful of styrofoam, which leaches styrene and ethylbenzene, a known carcinogen, into our food and drink. Unfortunately, the two things that break down styrofoam the most, heat and oily foods. So your coffees, your teas, and your leftovers from the restaurant, your oily pastas. So avoid the styrofoam. Ethylbenzene was even found to go through the shell of the egg into your egg itself. Ethylbenzene coming from that styrofoam container. So whatever you do, make sure you buy your eggs in a cardboard container versus styrofoam. Simple solution that's so easy to add to your life is get away from plastic and get to glass. Glass is the healthy way. And never, ever heat or reheat your food and drinks in plastic or styrofoam. All right, another hidden danger that people are shocked by, non-stick pans. Uh-oh. Right? You love your non-stick pans. You're not going to give them up, I know that. But don't worry, they are completely safe unless you heat them. So don't worry. If you want to decorate the kitchen, hang them from the wall, that's fine. Just don't let them get hot. How do they make the surface so hard that nothing will stick to it? That element, fluoride, again, is back. That made our teeth hard and brittle, also makes this surface so hard that nothing will stick to it. But unfortunately, at high temperatures, fluorine gas is released. And the manufacturer knows this. If you go to their website, it warns you to not have your pet bird in the kitchen when you're cooking with their pots and pans. Why? Because the fluorine gas will kill your pet bird. And you and your family are breathing it each and every day when you're cooking. Another reason to listen to the canary in the coal mine and avoid using these products. You can use cast iron, you can use stainless steel, you can use ceramic. And if you do use the nonstick, make sure you're not using old beat-up scratch pans that can release more fluorine gas, and never preheat them so that you get them really hot and they release that fluorine gas. Simple precautions that you can take. Okay, here's a surprising one, but an easy one. Most people have no idea that the air inside is 3 to 4 times more polluted than the air outside. We hear, don't go outside, it's a bad air day. Stay inside. Well, where do you think this air came from? This air came from outside. We bring it in, but then we pollute it. We put our cleansers, our toxic cleansers, the off-gassing of fabrics and paints, our fragrances, the air fresheners. Those aren't really roses in a can, people. Trust me. Those are chemicals synthesized in the laboratory to trick your nose into believing that those are roses in a can. Your lungs want air. So stop wasting your money on those products, those chemicals. Don't bring them into your home. And the easiest and one of the best simple solutions is open a window. Let the fresh air in.
A solution to pollution is dilution.
Beautiful. Just
Open
poetic.
the window.
A scientist and a poet. All right. And we want to conclude with one of the most toxic elements again, mercury. Where is it hidden this time that you're not aware of? Well, unfortunately, we find a lot of mercury in our CFL light bulbs. Yes, those things have been pushed on us. The things that are so critical for the future are full of toxic mercury. Now, the Occupational Safety and Health Administration, they say that if this room or the building ever exceeds 100 micrograms per cubic meter, you have to evacuate that room. All right? So what was we had 84 from our teeth. We were almost near evacuating our mouth from our brushing our teeth experiment. Remember that? Well, now we're going to break this light bulb and find out what the reading is. You ready? All right. Make sure that plastic isn't blocking it. We want to contain this so we don't make a big mess, and we have to have this hood to make sure the mercury doesn't get out into the room. 447, over four times or 4.5 times the legal limit where we would have to evacuate this room. Once again, the manufacturers know this, and they put a long list of instructions on their website or in the fine print. How many people know what the instructions are if you break a light bulb? I see maybe a hand or two. Critical life-saving instructions. Who knows what they are? All right, here they are. If you accidentally break a light bulb, you're supposed to evacuate the room. Then you're supposed to turn off the heating, air conditioning, and open the windows, which is really hard to do after you've evacuated the room. So what you have to do is you pick the person you like least, send them back in, have them open the windows, turn off the heating and air conditioning. Then you can't use a vacuum to clean this up. You'll blow the mercury around. You have to sweep it into a closed container, seal it, put it in a garbage can. How many of you knew that? Those are the instructions that the manufacturer knows we should be following. That's what you should do every time you break a light bulb. But let's say you get lucky. It doesn't break in your home. Is it going to break in the garbage can? Is it going to break in the garbage truck? Is it going to break in the landfill? And is that mercury going to go into our groundwater, into our air, and find its way back into our homes? Yes. So, whatever you do, don't buy CFLs. If you have them, put them in a safe place where they won't be broken. But when they burn out, replace them with incandescent halogen, LED. Don't be fooled by these. All right, that's our tour of the house for today. If you want to learn more, you can, of course, read the book or visit the website. But thank you. And I need you to understand this. This information is not meant to scare you. All of the dangers that we talk about have simple solutions. Sometimes multiple solutions to choose from, so you can pick the one that's best for you. A 10% or a 20% improvement or reduction of toxins in your home adds up day after day, week after week, year after year, to lower that toxic burden that you're exposed to, that your body has to fight. So make those small changes. Don't go cold turkey on everything. People won't do that. But make a 10 or 20% change in many different areas and create a healthier home for your family. Don't be overwhelmed. Just follow these 3 simple steps. First, use your senses to become more aware of what's around you. Number 2, use your common sense to make better decisions. And most importantly, 3, take action. Do something differently. You gotta take action with that information. In closing, we would like to share a little bit of advice with you, copying the format used by columnist Mary Schmick in her to-do list for graduates called Wear Sunscreen. Now, due to the parabens we find in sunscreen, ours is called Wear Gloves.
Ladies and gentlemen of the 21st century,
wear gloves.
If we could give you just one bit of advice, it would be to wear gloves.
Whether you're scrubbing the floors, poisoning your yard, or changing the oil in your car, just remember, if you wouldn't drink it, don't touch it.
Enjoy the taste of color.
Never mind that color doesn't taste.
Enjoy the beauty of colorful foods that nourish your cells.
Drink bottled water when you travel, but protect your plastic container.
Drink purified water when you're home, but change your filters often.
Drink lots of water.
Travel.
Don't mess too much with your skin, or by the time you're 40, it will look 80.
Enjoy the power and beauty of your skin cells.
Ignore the tantalizing marketing of cosmetic companies trying to cover, color, and contaminate your natural appearance.
You probably won't understand the power and beauty of your skin until it's wrinkled and faded.
You are beautiful just the way you are. But lose the weight.
Trust us, in 20 years you'll look back at photos and recall how much more life you had when there was much less of you.
Open a window.
Breathe.
Don't worry about your family's health, or worry, but know that it's your choices that most often decide the outcome.
Worrying only adds stress, which reduces your odds if you're rolling the dice and living by chance.
Don't gamble.
The Gauss meter reveals, the mole dog barks, and your nose knows.
Share your world. Bugs may be pests, but they don't pester like your spouse and your kids, and you keep them around.
Don't be reckless with pesticides.
Don't live near people who are reckless with theirs.
Fluoride kills. Floss instead.
Lose the silver fillings.
Keep your beautiful memories.
Don't feel guilty for damage already done. Do one extra thing every day that brings health to your home and family.
Open another window.
Breathe.
Don't waste your money on dryer sheets.
Sometimes your socks will stick to your pajamas. It's okay.
Your nose knows. Smell nothing and smell it often.
Log off.
Get plenty of rest. These days, it's the only time you're not too busy to dream.
Maybe you have children, maybe you don't.
Take off your shoes anyway.
You never know who will use the 10-second rule to eat something that fell on the floor.
Trust your instincts. Don't forget that other sense that is incredibly powerful, common sense.
Open all the windows.
Breathe.
Don't worry about the future. Change it.
Today, we offer you solutions.
Some proven, some theory, but all with good intentions.
If we miss the mark on some and they are not life-saving, trust that they will not harm you.
Build your immune system, not Big Pharma's pockets.
Only one has your best interests at heart.
Simplify.
Don't poison your house to kill a fly. Bug strips will show you who's not paying rent.
Get to know the way of life your parents had when they were kids. Your parents passed, holds the key to your children's healthy future.
Research.
Accept certain inalienable but simple truths. Your home and car are polluted.
You can change that.
Respect warning labels.
Better yet, don't use products that require them.
Are all the windows open? Breathe. Science cannot move quickly enough to ensure product safety.
Look out for yourself and your family.
You are responsible. When you point and blame, 3 fingers point back at you.
Learn.
Be careful whose advice you buy. Be the type of person who has learned to question.
I hope you'll question our suggestions and do some research.
Find answers for yourself. When you can't find answers, stop, think, and do what your gut tells you.
Do it for our children's future, but trust us on the gloves.
I thank you very much for being here today. I'm now going to invite all the presenters to come back and join me again. They've done a wonderful job. I also want to give a shout out to Steve Oates, who actually put a lot of this together. He brought us together, we saw it and brought healthcare into it and allowed this event for all of you. So thanks to Steve. If I can bring the other presenters out, I'm going to ask them for one final bit of advice. And as they make their way to the stadium, please applaud them as well. There they are. There they are. All right. It is rare to have a brain trust like this on one stage. I am indebted to all of you. I truly want to acknowledge how spectacular it has been to rate notes myself, and I know many of you as well. So I've asked each of them to come back and visit us, except for Bill Shatner, who's still coughing backstage. I've asked them to come back with their final advice. You know, it's what you know the most about, what you care the most about, what are you most passionate about that we want you to understand. It's our final little note. These I want you to take home with you tonight. Dr. Bruce.
So one thing I want everybody to remember is that nobody out there has a broken sleeper, okay? Everybody can and will be able to have a good night's sleep, because remember, everything you do better with a good night's sleep.
Okay, so I'm sure you're all very excited and you're going to run out of the building and tell everybody about your experience here and change the way you live and eat differently and sleep differently and get rid of all the bad things in your house today. What I'm concerned about is what you're going to do tomorrow and next week, and how you're going to carry today's enthusiasm and energy and passion into the rest of your lives. So my advice for you today would be to pick one thing that you think could really be powerful, and next Saturday, write it down, make sure you remember it, and start it, and remember it every Saturday for the rest of the year, because this is something that needs to be sustained.
Dr. Rowe.
I just want you to know that you are worth it. No matter what anyone has ever said to you, what the past has been, what you perceive the future to be, you are worth it. You are worth the effort that you put into yourself for your life. And the process of living healthy is just that. It is a process, one in which you'll be involved for the rest of your life. It's not how you start out, it's how you end up.
Remember, beauty is from the inside out. Put out the fire for health and beauty. Thank you.
Here's the prescription. It'll change your life. 30 days. It's so easy. Tonight, when you go to bed, look into the mirror, into your own eyes, and say, I love you. I really love you. By day 20, your life will be changed. By day 30, you will absolutely believe that you are worthy of love.
I just want to let you all know that you cannot depend on the government regulations or the manufacturers to protect you. Ignorance is not an excuse. With the internet, with the information out there, it's your responsibility to educate yourself and empower yourself so you can make the best decisions for yourself and your family.
After having grown zillions of cells, human cells, in the laboratory over several decades, I've come to know that healthy nutrition is the single most important thing you can do to keep your cells and body healthy and free from degenerative disease. The cell is the fundamental unit of life. Starve it, injure it, or poison it, and the resulting damage causes degeneration and disease in the body. Nurture it, protect it, and feed it with the nutrients that it needs, and it will repair itself, yielding health and longevity. May you love life and live it to its fullest in happiness and health. Thank you.
All right. So I'm going to do one little exercise here. I'm going to ask our expert panelists to get personal. And I'm going to ask each of them to give you the one thing in our own personal lives we do that we think is the most important for health that you can adopt as well. So I'm going to start off, and then we'll go back down this line. So I'll tell you something that I do every single morning. If you want to follow along with me, I put a little video of what I do on droz.com. And by the way, today's the last day to sign up for Transformation Nation. We're trying to give $1 million away, and we're going to do it. It's a big vote off in the spring. Many of you are already part of Transformation Nation, but go to droz.com, sign up. It's free. We've got a wonderful summary of a lot of things we've talked about today, and we're going to give away $1 million in May, so be part of the party. At worst, you'll be healthier for trying. But in the meantime, on that same location, I have a 7-minute video of a little exercise I do every single morning when I get up. I want you to think about it. It's 7 minutes long because, frankly, even I have problems in the morning just getting out of my bed and getting going. And so I get up and I think to myself, you know what? If I can just do this activity, by the time I start, I'm almost done. That's why it's got to be short. So quick, you can't make any excuse to get out of it. And frankly, you got to challenge yourself with one big assumption. Yeah, please have a seat for 1 second. I want you to challenge yourself to think to yourself, is your life so disorganized you can't carve out 7 minutes? Because I bet you'll have to answer that you can always make 7 minutes. It's basically a little bit of yoga, a little football, calisthenics, simple stuff. You won't get too out of breath. You do it any pace you want to do, and I think it'll change your life, because at the rest of the day, when everyone else is slumping around like this, you're going to know that you already did your little workout. And that 7 minutes is all you have to do to just crack the code for getting physical activity. Okay, Dr. Bruce.
I would say the one thing that I do is I do not use the snooze button on my alarm. Actually, I haven't used an alarm clock in over 20 years because I wake up because I go to bed at the right time. So the thing I could recommend to everybody out there is if you use the snooze, don't.
The one thing that I've done since I was 15, and I won't tell you how long that makes it, is to eat a plant-based diet. I've been a vegetarian for a very long time. I think that for many reasons it keeps toxins out of my body, not the toxins that are in my home, but it is also a conscious choice to try and improve our environment, because I do think that the way that we farm animals is one of the biggest threats to global sustainability.
The one thing I do every morning is I pray and meditate. In fact, I do it twice a day actively, because my intention is to be in touch and be led by my spirit rather than my ego.
When I wake up in the morning, I give myself an extra 5 minutes for meditation. And that can change the levels of your cortisol for the rest of the day. And we had enough to say about that earlier.
When I wake up in the morning, I remember my dreams, I write them down, and then I open the funnel over my head to divine love, a form of meditation, bring that into my head and my thymus and throughout my entire body, and I'm connected for the rest of the day.
What I keep in mind is moderation, baby steps. If you go extreme, you'll fail and you'll stop. So take those little steps and make progress over time and keep on going.
Of the hundreds of things that we put in the book that I would advise you on, let me pick one of the simplest things, simple things for you to do to protect your body. Drink only purified water. There are 60,000 man-made chemicals in this world today, and most of them are in our water supply. Don't put those things in your body. We only test for some 91 elements, and you don't want any of those things in your body. And we know we need to drink lots of water. The more water we drink, if it's polluted, is having us accumulate more toxics in our body. Purify your water. Drink just distilled water, or easiest yet, reverse osmosis treated water. Do it today. Do it tomorrow. Get set up to do it. Put it under your sink, a small unit under your sink, or you can RO your whole home, but only drink and cook with purified water. Your body will be thankful for it.
Thank you very much. I want to thank the Wences for helping to underwrite the entire day, and all my wonderful colleagues for joining us to talk a little bit about the things that I think will hopefully change the way you think about your own bodies. I want to especially thank them for being my co-pilots today, and the wonderful team at USANA for helping organize the creative brilliance behind this program. I'd like to invite Step and Richie to come out and join us. Step Stewart, wonderful dancing, and Richie, who kept everyone hopping, does all the warm-ups for our show. I hope you've enjoyed this trip. But remember, this is only the first leg of our world. It's only the first leg of our world when we talk about this wellness tour that we're going on. Your vacation from an unhealthy life doesn't have to be a problem. You can make it a permanent change towards where you want to be. I want to thank you very much for making this Health and Happiness Summit a destination you can go to, stay at, and enjoy for the rest of your life. I'm going to ask you one favor. I want you to call 3 people that you care about when you go home today and tell them the most important thing you learned today. Will you all do that? All right. I love you all dearly. Good night.
Let's get crazy. Let's be sure to lose.
We get approached by a lot of folks, as you know, who want to help out with HealthCore. It's an organization that has a great mission, so it's not easy to get folks to say no. When I ask them, they always say yes. But I often am reluctant to engage in partnerships because you risk your reputation. And I love the fact that when you look at the fabric of what USANA has been able to accomplish, and it ranges in many different areas, and we'll talk about some of those. But I love the fact that the individuals that I've met are high quality, noble-minded folks who really want to make a difference in making this country a better place. And not just this country, because you're all over the darn planet. You also have a desire to spread that wisdom and that wealth of knowledge far beyond the borders of this great nation.
Well, it's been fantastic getting to know Dr. Oz better and better and realizing the same philosophies that he follows, we follow, and so we feel the power of working together. We can do a lot more together than we can do apart. So we're just excited to look forward to the future and changing a lot of children's lives over time.
When we first met and began speaking in the office a little bit about the role of supplements in a healthy lifestyle, it was readily apparent to me that you have a deep wealth of knowledge in this area. And I would say I've been intrigued at how much confusion there is in this topic. For sure, most of us don't get the nutrients that we need from the foods that we eat. So I've on the show many times advocated for folks to take at least a multivitamin, minimum, together with some extra vitamin D, calcium, magnesium, and selenium, and then some omega-3 fats to go along with it. That should be the foundation, I think, for every American. You guys, of course, are way in the vanguard of this, trying to look for subtle ways in which nutrition affects the lives of every person that uses your products.
I realized long ago that, today our foods are being grown on depleted soils, and they just don't have the nutrients that our parents and grandparents had. But more importantly, with our horrendously increased exposure to toxics, man-made toxics in the world, we do need larger doses of the antioxidants to protect the cells of our body than what our parents did.
My father-in-law, who's also been in the vanguard of this movement, also appreciated that the oxidation of the body, the rusting of our bodies, is something that we can prevent. And naturally, we get many of these nutrients from the colorful fruits and vegetables. As the sun hits them, they protect themselves. You've been able to bottle that. Let me ask, if I can, a question about customized provision of nutrients. Because I know that the biggest change that will probably happen in Western medicine is our ability to better customize care for each other, right? We know when we give a pharmaceutical drug that probably 20% of the time it's the wrong drug for that person. So as the pharmaceutical companies begin to get smarter about customizing the drug choices that we give to folks, whether it's a statin drug or antihypertensive, whatever it might be, how does that change in the world of nutraceuticals?
Well, I think the key is that we're all different. We all react to things differently. We all process things differently. And so we need to learn, and we have the technology now to learn about each individual and start to customize the nutrition to match their needs rather than to blanket give everyone the same thing and assume that they're all the same. They have the same lifestyle, the same eating habits, or their body metabolizes things the same way.
Yeah, a lot of times I'm asked about whether supplements are safe or not. Are they really putting in the product what they say they're putting in the product? I always give the similar advice. Make sure you buy from a big company that's reputable because they've been around for a while. So if they've been ripping you off, they've probably been caught on to. And having the ability to make the products in-house rather than importing them from other countries, I think has an advantage as well. Because at least you've got your finger on the pulse of the entire manufacturing process. What I love when I heard your story is the fact that you actually do the research that's required to demonstrate that the products you're making make a difference. And having your fingers on the right at the fingertips, the ability to quote those studies, which Dr. Wentz has a remarkable ability to do, but also doing the research that needs to be done in a way that that you can really spread wisdom together with some service, which is the products required that satisfy that wisdom. And I think we all have an obligation, a civic responsibility, especially when you've had some success in life, to make sure that you take that wisdom that you've collected, it was passed on to us by our parents and by people who cared about us, and share it with others. I think that's what this partnership seeks to do. We're going to teach a lot of folks some things about their bodies they never knew about, but even more than that, we're going to teach them that they can control their bodies. And if they can figure out what's happening inside of them, they can change the world outside of them. I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart for trusting us in this relationship. You're a lot more of a foundation supporter of this endeavor than you could ever imagine, and it means the world to us that you trust us as we embark on this voyage together.
We're very excited. We know it's going to be a great partnership.
Thank you very much.